Hey, what's going on with this housing market up here in this Jacksonville metro area this week? That's what we're going to go over. But first, let's just the headline here that I have. So you got a job that you're making $40 an hour. That's a pretty good job, right? Well, let's multiply it out. Multiply it by 40 hours a week, by 12 months or 52 weeks in the year. If you get paid for all 52, that's over $83,000 a year. That's a pretty good job. But how much house can you buy? Man, when I ran the numbers, I was surprised. I'm going to show them to you tonight. And speaking of numbers, this show here is Bubble Watch. That's right, I'm in season 3. This is week 50. And we're going to look at these numbers here. And this is where I get it from, because I'm just a regular guy who happens to be a real estate agent up here in Northeast Florida. And I take you into the back end of my MLS every week. And this is part of what I'm going to show you. We're going to take a look at those active listings. That is your inventory. We'll take a look at what is active under contract, what is pending in the last 7 days, how many closed or sold in the last 7 days. Take a look at that new construction, see how many they sold and their new inventory. All right, what I do is I export all this data out of the back end of the MLS, and it goes into an Excel sheet. Looks kind of like this, which is a lot and hard to decipher and to read. But I clean it up into my own Excel spreadsheet, which looks something like this, and where we're able to look at like week by week and also year by year to see the differences in what's going on. While all those, and I've got a lot more that I'm going to do other than just what you saw there. There's a lot more data that comes out of it. I'm going to get to that in just a minute. But while all those numbers are crunching out, let's see what those interest rates did this last week. Okay, here we're going to look at the mortgage rates for this last week, and I'm looking at your conventional 30-year, then I'll look at FHA and VA, and all these charts, we start here at the bottom. That's where we left off, and in this case here for the 30-year fixed, we were at 6.86 last week. And remember, we had touched 7 there, before, and we almost did here, 6.98, came close, but we kept it under. We ended up at 6.92, so we did see an increase still, even though we had mixed arrows over here on the side. Your 30-year FHA is generally less. As we can see, we left off at 6.35. After our mixture of arrows, we ended up at 6.35, so it actually stayed the same for our FHA. And our VA rates last week were 6.37, and after the mixed arrows, they stayed the same at 6.37 this week. All right, we saw before where they had kissed that 7% and went up, and now we're back down into the 6s, which is a good thing, but it looks like this is where we're going to be this year, is what I think. All right, now let's get to those Excel spreadsheets. Now, something I do a little bit different. Now, first of all, I do believe this is the longest running show of its kind up here in Northeast Florida that deals with this Jacksonville metro area, but also what I look at is the weekly median price per home sold. Townhomes, condos, and single-family homes, but also I look at the price per square foot, the median price. And I believe I'm the only one that does that. A lot of people do the monthly thing, but I'll do that. And I put all that into this Excel spreadsheet, which we're going to look at right now. All right, here we are into the back end of my Excel spreadsheets where I, clean up all that data that was exported from the North Florida MLS, and that's where this information comes from. And I always quickly go over a brief view of what these charts are because I got a lot of new people every week. This column right here, this yellow column here where it says week 50, this is our current week, okay? And these are the numbers. Now over here on this column over to the right is where it shows you what those rows are: active, sold, active under contract, pending, and so forth. Okay, the other yellow columns are the previous 2 weeks, okay? So it's easy to compare quickly at a glance what's happened in the last couple of weeks, okay, to now. This white column to the right, that is our last year at this time. So you see how easy it is with my charts to compare right away what we were last year, and YOY shows the year-over-year difference in percentage between the 2 years. So it makes it real easy. And then, of course, I follow that all the way to the other weeks. This SFH for the blue column, that is where I pull out the single-family homes only, since that is the highest category of homes sold. So that is the most common, so I do show that, okay? And those numbers by themselves. All right, and then after this, then I'll quickly show the condos also separately. Now, let's start off with, we see this week here, our inventory, which is our active listings, 10,958. So that is an increase, but a slight increase, not a big one. What we did see also this week is, here's our solds, 506. That is a drop from last week. Active under contract, 1,526. So that is up. The amount that went under contract went up. Now, active under contract, those are people that they put in an offer, got accepted, and they still have contingencies, whether it's financing, whether it's appraisal, or it could be the inspection, or even a home that has to be sold. Pending, those are the ones that the contingencies cleared, and now they're in pending status, which is the next status before you go clear to close. That number this week was 396, and that number is down. But because we had so many active under contract, our total under contract, when you add them both up, is 1,922, and that is an increase over the last couple weeks. Withdrawals, 79. Those are homes that are listed for sale, however they can't be shown. A lot of times people are either sick, they don't want people tromping through the house if they're, sick, or some people are working from home, and certain days they can't have people there, so then they put it in withdrawal status till they clear that up. Expired's different. Those are the ones that are not for sale any longer on the MLS. They expired, they did not sell, and so they went off market, and this week we had 133, okay? 140 is the new homes sold, and that is an increase from last week. Even though our total homes sold went down, new homes went up. New homes active inventory is 2,300, and this orange in the right there, that orange box, that 27.67%, that represents the percentage of homes sold that are new. So over 1/4 of the homes sold this week were new construction homes. That's definitely up from last week where it was 1/5. Okay, over here, your single family homes, you can see those numbers right there. I'm not going to read them all off, but you can see them all right there. Now, this whole chart that goes all the way back to when I started this show back in 2022 is available for download in the description of this video. Okay, you will see a link to download this same chart that I use in the show if you would like to have all the data that I've compiled since 2022 and follow it. Okay, next quickly is just the condo information, and this here is basically the same setup. As you can see, active sold, active under contract pending, and you can see that our condo inventory did go down a little bit. This yellow column right here is our current week, and it's week 8 of season 2 for the condo. Now, I do show the same thing. You can see the year over year and last year at this time. The solds was down dramatically to 25, active under contract 105, and pending 20, total under contract 125, about the same as last week, and so on. All right, now we go back to the total of everything. Okay, this includes all your single families, everything else, and the condos all combined from now on, these stats. So we can see here we're in week 50 on how people paid for these homes. Okay, we can see that the cash did drop a little bit from last week. So we're at 22.53%. Conventionals, about the same, almost 37. FHA, just over 21%, so that was a jump. VA stayed close to the same at about 16.5, and others still at 2.77. As we see those interest rates still hanging up there higher than what people want, we're going to see more of these other financings. Okay, these numbers directly below that you see, those are the actual units, number of units that sold for that type of financing. So you see, out of the 506 that were sold, we had 114 were cash, 187 for conventional, and so on. Okay, next I look at the foreclosure numbers. Now, these foreclosure numbers are not your total foreclosures for Northeast Florida, but what they are is the foreclosures, the homes that are status as foreclosures, pre-foreclosures, and short sales in the active listings. Okay, so what is active listings in the MLS? These are the numbers that are in these statuses. So you can see 82 foreclosures, which is up. Pre-foreclosures down 1 to 18. Short sales down 1. Our total 153. So we did have an increase from last week and the weeks before. Next is where I take a look at the percentage of homes that sold under list, at list, and above list. Okay, the homes that sold under list, 78%. Homes that sold at list, about 13 1/4. Homes that sold above list, you know, over 8.5. All right, these numbers below also represent the units that sold. So 395 homes sold under list price, 67 at list, and 44 above. Now, these homes that sold under list, okay, now what this is, okay, these numbers are high, okay, and what it is, it's not necessarily the price of homes going down, okay, so that we got to look at the median price, which I'm going to get to. This here is homes sold on our list, so a lot of homes, the sellers could be having them too high priced, okay, above market. There are some sellers that still think it's 2021, but then there's some buyers that think it's 2008 and 2010. And so we do have that difference. So when you see that high number of homes sold under list, it could be that a lot of them started high, okay, to begin with, and that's what went down. And the homes that sold above list, that's not so much, you know, where we get into these multiple offer situations like we did like a few years ago, but a lot of it now is that concessions are being asked more by buyers, and so what happens is they'll up the price of that home to get the concession amount that they want, because once we show, I'm going to show a chart that shows that that dollar amount that went above list is not really a lot in most cases. Next, I look at the price categories. Homes that sold for $500,000 and above in the 400s, 300s, 200s, and below 200. And as you can see, 1/4 of the homes sold were 500,000 and above. Homes in the 400 continues to be a low amount. Here we are 11.86. Homes in the 300s is kind of a sweet spot, and now also coming up is the homes in the 200s. And as I've said before, a lot of those homes in the 200s, there are townhomes there, or mobile homes, or manufactured homes. Below 200, you know, right there we're at 12%. Again, the numbers below represent the units sold in those price categories. When we take a look at the new construction homes, we look at them that sold under list, at list, and above list. And here we see definitely an increase under list at 85.71% and a decrease in the homes that sold above list for this time. And I've always wondered why we had so high of above list, and now it came down this week. So is it going to be a trend? I don't know. But we see that their numbers definitely went up, 140 units versus 116 last week. Okay, this is where I look at the median price of homes sold. Single family homes, townhomes, and condos. And then I also look at the median price sold of the square footage, how much per square foot. And then you can compare this with the other weeks. First, we're just going to look at these current weeks right here. And we see there single family homes came in at $375 for the median price. Townhomes, $268. See what I was saying about in those 200s was those townhomes, and the condos at $245, which don't make up a lot of the sales. Price per square foot, we see those townhomes, $181. Okay, single family homes, $211, and the condos, $207. Over here to the left, you can see some of the previous weeks, and you can compare how those median prices fluctuated over the weeks. Now, of course, if you want to see a lot more, then you can, like I say, download this Excel spreadsheet, and you can look at all the rest of those charts. Okay, this part here is where I look at I break down the difference in this column right here between the sold price, closed price, and the original list price. We start off with under list price, what's sold. Over here, the first column shows what type of class it was. This single family homes, mobile homes, manufactured homes, townhomes, condos, etc. As we scroll down, you'll see that. We have the original list price, the list price. Now the list price is what the seller lowered it to, okay, to get to that price, and then the closed price is what it sold for. Then the last column is days on the market, just for grins. You want to see how many days on the market this house was before it sold for that. Now we've got quite a few, okay, over 500. So I'm just going to scroll this down, and you can pause the video as you'd like. I mean, we've got a little ways to go here where you can see quite a few under list. And of course, if you want to just download this chart and look at it, make it a lot easier than stopping a video if you want to see more details of that. As we get closer to that 0, There we are, and when we're at 0, that's sold for list price. And then we've got the above list prices coming up, and you can see those numbers aren't very big. That's where I say that a lot of that is probably towards concessions and not multiple price offers, although a couple of them could be. Hey, if you like the way I put this show together with all this data for you on a weekly basis, then give me a thumbs up. And if you want to be part of Bubba Watch Nation, then hit that subscribe button, be part of it. Next thing we're going to look at right now is what is called MLS Advantage. That's where I take the 9-county area up here in this Jacksonville Metro and look at the sold data for that, because there's a lot of these other MLS boards up here. And so I put all that data together in its own chart and show you the sold by counties, so you can see where the activity is by counties. Usually we see that St. John's, a lot of new construction, a lot of going on there. Flagler County, you know, that's over there. You got the Palm Coast area, which is hot too. So we look at all that, and so I put it together. So right now let's look at MLS Advantage, see what those sold numbers are, and then we're going to look at those by county data. All right, here we are into the back end of my MLS, this Northeast Florida MLS, and we're into the MLS Advantage section right here. Here we look at the 9 counties: Baker, Union, Bradford, Clay, Nassau, Duval, St. John's, Flagler, and Putnam. Over here, I click that search button, and it gives me 669 properties. All right, now when I break this down into counties, here we see, okay, Baker had 6, so even to last week. Union up 1, so they broke that goose egg. Bradford only had 1, so that was a big drop for them. Clay County 78, Nassau 39, a big drop for them. Duval County 254, St. John's 159, Flagler County 96, stayed almost about the same. Putnam County actually had an increase, and there's our total 669 for MLS Advantage. And again, what I like about my charts is you can just look at these bottom numbers there and see those totals and how much they've fluctuated over the last few weeks. I am a licensed realtor here in the state of Florida, and I do work with a select group of agents up here in this Northeast Florida area. And if you're looking to buy or sell, just call us at this number that you see on the screen here below. All right, speaking of buying or selling a house, especially buying, like I said, $40 an hour job, over $83,000 a year, great salary, okay, great job. You're all happy, you're proud of yourself. Well, let's look at this Wells Fargo site where we can calculate and see what you would qualify for under those conditions with that amount of income. All right, here I go into this calculator by Wells Fargo. It says Mortgage Affordability Calculator. And this isn't a pre-approval or anything like that. It just gives you a rough idea. Of course, your credit score and all that's going to have a lot to do with things. So let's scroll down here, and we're going to put in our annual income, which at $40 an hour comes out to $83,200 a year, considering that you get paid for all 52 weeks. Next, I'm going to put in just $200 for monthly credit cards, student loans, other debt payments, things like that. Being very conservative here because I'm going to get the most out of their pay. And how much for a down payment? Here I'm going to put $10,000 because I find a lot of people, that's where they're at, because that doesn't include the closing cost, which could be another $10,000 to $15,000. So now when you add the down payment onto their closing costs, people actually have to come up with like $20,000, $25,000, which is quite a bit, especially if you're making $83,200 a year. So I put down $10,000. Of course, you can adjust it. You can even go to this calculator yourself and play with it. But this is just for an argument here. And as you can see, less than 20% down will require PMI, which is private mortgage insurance. We're going to look into that. Where are you looking to buy? Okay, we're going to put Jacksonville, Florida. And let's go with Duval County. And right there it shows us that our monthly payment would be estimated at $2,250 a month, and the home price that you would get $261,425. Okay, let's go down here to your monthly payment breakdown. And it shows the principal and interest there at $1,673. Estimated taxes, $368, probably about right. Estimated homeowner insurance, I think that's light, okay? Now, some new homes, you could get that. You could get that, you know. So, but if it's a used home, it'd be more. Mortgage insurance, there's your PMI, 128. There's where they came up with the 22. Now, you're thinking like, okay, what am I going to get for this? Well, I'm going to show you. There are options out there at this price range. And again, this is like if you need to. If you're fine where you're at and you don't have to buy, then, you know, then don't buy. But, you know, not everyone's in that position, so they need options. Well, that's kind of shocking, isn't it? That's it. And I was being conservative there with the credit card debt and things like that. Geez almighty. But there are homes available. That's right. Like, take a look at this. This here happens to be a townhome, and you're going to see a lot of townhomes in those 200s. And this here is a brand new townhome. And you can see it's in the 200s. Now, I know there's people that are going to say, you know, new construction, they don't want that, and the builders that. Well, you can find others too. You know, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, you might find some single-family homes in some of the rural areas. I know in some areas in Clay County, you can get new homes for under 300 and all that. But it's tough. It's tough right now. This is part of the problem. So you got to see now, to get into those over $300,000 homes, now you got to be making over $100,000, it seems like. So it's really tough to do. Hey, you know what? This is week 15, and it is in the can. And until next week, I'm out of here.